Being a roller coaster enthusiast on social media will always lead to the subject of new roller coasters being built at our favourite parks. Whether it be a rumour of a new roller coaster at your home park, the dream of an RMC in a UK southern based park, or quite simply debating what roller coasters we'd like to see built at different parks in our home countries. It's just something that we all do. I'm pretty bad for it really. I'll ride a roller coaster overseas and immediately think, this would be great at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. But it's not always as simple as every coaster concept fitting into every environment they're built into. There's certain types of coasters I simply can't ever imagine being built at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, whereas I could see them slotting into another park perfectly. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing what coaster types I'd really like to see being built in the UK and which park or parks that they'd fit into, in my opinion. Some of these coaster types may already be in the UK, but it's not uncommon for similar coaster types to be built in two different parks. Before I dive into this, I want to be clear that I'm not really expecting an active couple of years in the UK theme park industry, especially as far as new roller coasters are concerned, due to the COVID-19 pandemic that we've all been facing. If you've been watching Pleasure Beach Experience for a while, I have a feeling you may be surprised by me saying this, but I would love to see a modern B&M dive coaster built in the UK. Okay, it may seem like a very random suggestion, given in vlogs my opinion can be quite indifferent towards these coasters, but without doubt one of these on the skyline at Blackpool Pleasure Beach will be a huge draw and a huge crowd pleaser. Blackpool Pleasure Beach already has a fantastic skyline. Adding a huge 200 foot or taller dive machine would without doubt add to that skyline. The problem is, these coasters tend to fade out and be quite tame after their initial dive and first inversion, which can be an issue, and I've always thought one of these would be too big to squeeze into Blackpool Pleasure Beach. But then Leesburg happened when they squeezed Valkyria into its tightly knit location. Do I think one of these roller coasters at Blackpool Pleasure Beach is possible? I certainly think there's potential for one of these to be squeezed into the park, potentially using the Bowlerdrome area, the car park behind it, and maybe taking out Planet Rock too. It would be a tight fit when considering how big the maintenance garages tend to be for these rides, along with housing a ride station, the queuing area, and everything else. But I do think with Blackpool Pleasure Beach's know-how when it comes to fitting in rides around existing rides, attractions and buildings, anything is possible. I think the biggest drawback with one of these coasters for most parks is likely to be the cost. They're not cheap to build or maintain, but would it be a risk worth taking? Every thrill seeker loves a tall roller coaster, even more so if it was billed as the UK's tallest. For most people, this is an obvious one, but the UK would be a better place if it had an RMC roller coaster. You may be surprised to hear that coming from me, but having rode more than one just RMC now, I have warmed to them and spend too much time on RCDB thinking about which one I can get on next. They do have their faults. The trains are just not very nice to sit in or look at most of the time, but that doesn't always take away from the ride experience. I think most people would like to see the next Steel Vengeance being built at Thorpe Park, but for me, I'd much rather see RMCs like Untamed, which is at Wallaby Holland. I'm all for airtime, but there's a limit, and Untamed doesn't break those limits. Steel Vengeance does. Okay, so where do I see one being built? You probably guessed this, but Thorpe Park. It just works, doesn't it? Well, it would do in my opinion. Do I see it happening though? Sadly not. I think we'll be having this which UK park will build the first RMC discussion about 5 or 10 years from now as well. Shortly after Icon opened at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, the assumption from many, me included, was that a Mack Big Dipper was the next roller coaster coming to Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and it wouldn't take long for it to happen after Icon. 2 years on, those rumours were proven to be nothing more than rumours. Shame really, and an even bigger shame that there's only 2 Mack Big Dipper coasters currently open anywhere in the world. Lost Gravity at Wallaby Holland is an exceptional roller coaster. It has the perfect mix of inversions, airtime, quick transitions and smoothness. There's so many parks in the UK I'd love to see build a Mack Big Dipper, Blackpool Pleasure Beach especially, but I think it'd be the perfect fit for Drayton Manor replacing G-Force. These coasters don't appear to take up loads of space, but they do have a low throughput, which may be why there's only 2 of them in operation at the time of recording. I don't know how likely it is that many more of these roller coasters will ever be built, but if the third one is in the UK, then I am all for it. An Intamin Blitz roller coaster in this country would be epic. I can imagine the hype now across the coaster forums, social media and YouTube channels with construction updates all over the internet. Give me some of that hype, please, I'm ready for that. I've been on 3 of these coasters, Cheetah Hunt, Maverick and Taron. I flip-flopped with my opinion of Taron to begin with because my experience of it was so indifferent, but anything remotely like it in this country would be a dream come true. I see one of these coasters as an ideal secret weapon project for Alton Towers. Now if you're an Alton Towers fan, please don't hate me for this, but let's rip out Galactica or Rita and use one of those areas for an Intamin blitz coaster. I think long term, the reality would be if Towers did build one of these, Rita's days would be numbered, but the Forbidden Valley area needs some life injecting into it, and removing a lifeless coaster like Galactica for one of these would be the best thing that Alton Towers have done since Corkscrew. This may come as a surprise entry, but I'd really like to see an S&S 4D freespin coaster built somewhere in the UK. The majority of these coasters have so far been built in Six Flags parks, and I was lucky enough to experience one of them at Six Flags Great Adventure last summer. They take up a small amount of space, it'd be a unique roller coaster experience in the UK, and will be a real crowd pleaser at one of the UK's smaller parks. Last, but by no means least, is a dream of some new wooden roller coasters being built in the UK. I cannot separate GCI and the Gravity Group here. They both build excellent wooden roller coasters, and they both have lovely staff working for them who've always been very accommodating to me personally at the IAAPA expos that I've attended. It seems to be fairly common knowledge that Thorpe Park considered building a wooden roller coaster before they opted to go with Soar. Did they do the right thing? I'd be all for Thorpe Park revisiting the idea of a wooden roller coaster. A large-scale woody with a big first drop, twisty corners and some airtime would work a treat. Wicker Man drew the crowds back to Alton Towers after some tough times, so I do think that GCI will always be considered for the next Merlin big coaster development at parks like Thorpe Park and even Chessington. I have to be honest though, I think a wooden roller coaster in most of the UK parks, if not all of them, would be an excellent investment. That brings me to the end of my wishful thinking here on Pleasure Beach Experience YouTube. What type of roller coasters would you like to see built in the UK, and at which parks would you like to see them built at? Once again, I would like to say, realistically thinking, I don't see any major investment as far as new coasters go being a thing in the UK for some time due to COVID-19. Many thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next Pleasure Beach Experience video.